Hey guys, Steven here back with another video. Today I'm going to show you 72 hours in Portugal and 48 hours in Amsterdam. This is my first time solo traveling, so this should be fun. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So I had left Toronto sometime in the evening. I had a connecting flight in the UK for a couple hours. So by the time I actually got to Lisbon, a day had passed and it was almost evening time. So if I were to plan this a little bit better the next time, I would probably find an earlier arrival time so that I could spend more time at my destination. So I'm in Lisbon right now. This is my first time solo traveling outside of the country. I've been to Montreal. Why am I solo traveling? So basically, I was supposed to go to Paris with my friend Noah. He's probably in Paris right now. I was supposed to be with him for a couple of days and then he was gonna go visit his family. But what happened was I booked the flight and everything. And then I realized that I had a shoot. So I forgot that I was supposed to photograph a wedding. And we signed a contract and everything. And now a plane is coming over me. I literally took a huge nap when I got here. So most of the day is actually gone already, but that's fine because apparently the nightlife here is really great and like things open up till like 3 a.m. There's like a mall and all that, so I'm gonna go ahead and go there, get some food, just walk around. So I actually didn't do much the first day just because I came really late, but what I witnessed was probably the craziest sunset I have ever seen in my life. And this became a constant theme for the next few days that I was in Lisbon. So if you are going to visit Portugal, I would definitely recommend staying awake for the sunrise or sunset. And I'll just tell you what's on screen right now does not do it justice at all. So it's like 2 a.m. right now. We're basically done the first day. I didn't really do anything the first day. I really just went around the city. And around my Airbnb basically, went to the shopping mall, figured out at McDonald's they sell beer here, which is a revelation. It's really interesting kind of going to these cities and learning about certain things, like the fact that Starbucks is here, and Starbucks was at my layover in UK, and Starbucks was in Shanghai when I went. It just makes you realize Starbucks is really a big company. But yeah, there's some things I've also realized about solo traveling, definitely not as glamorous as you see on the internet. There's a couple things that I took note of while during my layovers and sort of just exploring the city. Number one is traveling alone. It's a lot different because you can't waste time when you're by yourself. What I mean by this is I had a 4-hour layover and it felt like forever because I had nothing to do besides just sit down. I couldn't really sleep because then my luggage is just exposed and someone can just take it. So I had to be like half asleep holding my luggage. Whereas if I was in a group, that's not really a worry. You also feel much more secure on the streets, like just at nighttime right now. I don't necessarily feel that comfortable going outside by myself, even though I do go out downtown Toronto by myself at like 1 a.m. And it's probably more dangerous there. It's just the unknown that really scares you, and it's a lot easier to sort of tackle that when there's a lot of people with you. One big thing I noticed is if you are tired, you personally have to get yourself out of bed. So there's like a 5-hour time difference. I've actually been napping most of this day, and that wouldn't happen if I was with other people because other people hold you accountable for the money they are spending on this trip, and I'm spending money on this trip, but you know, because I'm the decision maker here, I decided to take naps. So if I don't want to do anything, I don't have to do anything necessarily, and I have to sort of will myself out of bed. It's very hard to do that. Also, just some weird observations. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 Asian people here. I actually searched this up on Wikipedia, like the demographic of like immigrants coming to Portugal. I think number 1 is Brazilians. I think maybe because the culture is very similar here. And number 2 is China, but I haven't seen like one Chinese person. I'm not Chinese myself, but I haven't seen an Asian person. I also noticed that I probably shouldn't have packed so much sweatpants because I haven't seen anyone wear sweatpants. Literally everyone is wearing blue jeans. I guess that's an observation I sort of made. I'm not too sure if that's also common like in Toronto, because I actually don't really look at what people dress or what they're wearing. It's just because I'm an outsider here that I notice what I'm wearing and pay really close attention. So tomorrow I probably will wear jeans, but I've noticed that everyone does wear jeans here. Number 2 observation is the sunsets here are crazy, and I guess it's kind of normal, very similar to how I went to Banff a few months ago, and people, locals, they just are used to the mountains. They don't really take pictures of it. I didn't see one person take pictures. Usually in these touristy cities, I would expect like photographers or people taking photos, but I guess I'm not even really in the downtown tourist area where people actually live, so maybe that's why. But yeah, the sunsets were crazy. It lasted really long too, which surprised me, and the view from my Airbnb is really crazy. And lastly, there's a lot of smoking here. I also think like the culture of like alcohol is also a lot greater here than in North America, so that's just something I noticed. But those are my takeaways from day one. Tomorrow we are going to Peña Palace. Basically, it's like this really nice palace, and there's parks and stuff around it. It is like an hour, 2 hour transit away from where I am, so it's gonna be a day trip. I'm gonna be waking up in like 5 hours. I'm gonna spend the day there, and hopefully I can go like downtown Lisbon or like the tourist area in Lisbon later on, Sintra or Peña Palace, where it's at. Peña Palace is in Sintra, which is a little bit like further away, so it's not really Lisbon. So I want to explore Lisbon, and then the day after that, I'm probably gonna do a little photo shoot with a photographer. I want to get some photos of myself. You know, my mom probably wants to see some photos of me. So yeah, that's basically what we'll be doing. And then I'm gonna go to Amsterdam, catch a flight, and I'll probably have to take a COVID test sometime in the next like 48 hours because they require that. So yeah, so far so good. Really cool experience. I just really want to go out at night, but I'm not too sure how safe it is. But probably tomorrow I will be out. If I'm out already, I'll probably just be out. But yeah.
The next day I decided to go to Sintra, which was not that far of a drive from Lisbon. I went to this place called Peña Palace from a lot of recommendations that I found on Reddit and all over the internet.
So I'm at Peña Palace. This is one of like the more popular tourist areas. And I didn't want to go here initially because I felt like these type of things are overrated usually, like any palace, churches, museum type stuff. But this is definitely like the best view that you could possibly get because it's so high up. It took like a long time to actually get up. I think like 30 minutes by bus.
So I had almost entered this trip not wanting to go to tourist attractions like this, but I would definitely recommend it to people, and I would say this is a really easy day trip. I would recommend purchasing a ticket online ahead of time and going right when the gates open, because I had arrived really early, but when I left there was a huge line. But it's a relatively cheap experience, and it can be done really quickly if you have a time restriction like I did. Even as a solo traveler, there were a lot of people, willing to take photos for you. And so if you do want to get photos of yourself and you're solo traveling, I would definitely just recommend you go to the tourist areas. So later that day, I headed to the Baxa district. It's basically the center of Lisbon, and there's a lot of restaurants there. There's a whole strip that goes a few blocks down where you can see a bunch of different restaurants. You're right by the water as well. And this would probably be the first place I would go if I were to plan this trip all over again. And so I sticked around that area because I had booked a boat ride during sunset, and I found this on Airbnb Experiences, which is the first time I actually booked something through it. It's similar to TripAdvisor, but for me it was a much easier experience. So that boat tour was by far the highlight of my trip. I met a lot of people on that boat ride that somehow had a connection to Canada, to Ontario. Like there was a married couple that I was talking with, and the guy actually has a sister who lives in Toronto. I believe he's from the States. There was a girl who went to the University of Waterloo, not so far from where I'm at, and she talked about how she hasn't really been on campus because of the whole COVID situation and online school. And there's another guy from Newmarket, which is not so far from Toronto either. So it really just showed me how small the world is and how everyone's on their little own adventure. And somehow there were certain things that led up to this moment Some people on that boat were solo traveling like me, some were couples, some were friends. And so when you talk to all these random people, you sort of like just learn about other people's experiences. It's really an amazing thing. And you also learn how very similar and different we are. Sharing experiences like this with strangers is something you don't get to do all the time, and traveling definitely makes it a lot easier. And when you meet people while you travel, you have that shared interest of traveling. It's like being friends with someone and talking about sports. Traveling opens up another topic of discussion for the rest of your life. After the boat ride, I actually had no way to get back because I had no service, no Wi-Fi, couldn't call an Uber. We were in the middle of nowhere. So I decided to walk back to my Airbnb. It took like probably an hour, but it was definitely worth it. And when I got home, I got ready to go to this place called Barro Alto, which is an area in Lisbon where there's a lot of college students. I would assume it's the spot to go for partying and all that sort of stuff. Although I didn't really do that. I actually just ate at this local burger shop and was talking to the restaurant owner.
Yo, so it's like 7 a.m. I decided to book a photo shoot for myself. It's gonna be like an hour. I decided to do it now because it's actually sunrise and I have a busy day coming up, and I thought it looked cool. The thing is, I did it in the middle of the night, like at like 2-3 a.m. and it's like 7 a.m. so hopefully the photographers saw it. But let's hope. Either way, I'm gonna go out right now.
So the next day I actually didn't film a lot because I had to rush to get to the airport and pack up and plan for my trip in Amsterdam. But I decided to wake up during sunrise and actually book a photo shoot with this really cool guy named Fabio. And he actually showed me around, talked about his experience moving from Brazil to Portugal. And he showed me some really great areas within Lisbon that I had missed earlier in the day. And one of those places was Alfama, which has a really cool view of basically Baxa. So I had been in Baxa and been next to the water. The Alfama, which is really nearby, basically oversaw all of that. It was a super beautiful view. And growing up, I wasn't really secure with myself and like how I looked like. So booking a photo shoot for something like this was definitely a step forward. And I actually didn't tell Fabio that I take photos as well. I didn't bring my camera because I wanted to just be fully engaged on that last day. After the photo shoot, I actually went back to my Airbnb and went back to Alfama just because I liked the view so much and I wanted to get some footage of it. So in case you're wondering, that's how I got the footage of this. So later that day, I headed to the airport and I was off to Amsterdam. So I only had really one full day in Amsterdam because of the time of my flight and all the logistical stuff. Amsterdam turned out being one of the best cities I've ever been to.
So right now, I got to Amsterdam last night. I haven't done anything. It's like 4 p.m. right now, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning. So I have like a good 8 hours to do stuff. Basically, I just got a PCR test for my, COVID stuff. And the price of this trip has just increased. It keeps increasing because of COVID stuff, like all these tests and stuff like that. Every time I go to the airport, I have to get a new test. But right now, I'm gonna rent a bike and I'm gonna hit some museums, and then I have a canal tour, like a little boat ride thing later on. But I gotta make the most of this because I'm only here for basically today, and then tomorrow morning I'm leaving. So yeah.
Although I really like Lisbon, I'm much more of like a city guy, and I definitely prefer the city over more rural areas. So during that one full day I decided to just bike around, have a really laid back experience.
I'm actually really surprised how like clean this city is. Public transportation's good. It's not that crowded in most areas. It's like the opposite of what you would expect from like a popular city, right? Like if you go to Toronto, everything I listed is just the opposite. This place is so refreshing to bike in compared to Lisbon, where I was trying to like electric scooter and it was just so bumpy. Your hands would get like super, like it just hurt because it was so bumpy and you would have to grip on the grip very hard. And here it's so smooth. There's like more bike lanes than like actual car lanes, and there's like a group of 20 people biking at all times. Just look at this.
So what's really great about Amsterdam is all the tourist areas are right next to each other. So there's a Rijksmuseum as well as the Van Gogh Museum. There was also the Anne Frank House, and everything is pretty much reachable by bike or train or subway.
One thing I'm wondering is, do people steal bikes here? Because it seems like everyone has a bike, that there's no reason to steal one. And they should really do like electric bike service, or like the ride share service. They would make so much money for like tourists, because I was looking for one, but I just got one from my hotel. I'm gonna go to the Anne Frank exhibit where her house was. Around there is where I'm also gonna go on the canal ride, so that's in about 30 minutes.
I most definitely will come back to Amsterdam because there's a lot of stuff I didn't go to. But during that day, I decided to just spend a lot of time by myself, just biking. And there's something about biking that's so therapeutic, especially when there's slight wind and it's sort of chilly and you're by yourself. It's just like super vibey. And once again, I went through Airbnb experiences and booked a canal tour. So I spent my night taking a tour around the canals, learning about the history of Amsterdam. I didn't have much time there, and I could have done more, but I really just wanted to relax because the flights and the commuting was really taking a toll on me. But definitely a great city.
1.6 million lives here in Amsterdam. Yeah. Oh my God. I know. And they were like, can you stop waving because we're in a movie right now, so we're the capital of Africa. The Royal Theatre of Amsterdam was founded by Oscar Gray in 1887. It now holds cabarets and concerts. Also here on the right, you see the rainbow.
So don't hesitate to ask any questions. Like Megan said, we enjoy an interactive tour, because otherwise it's just going to be a history lesson from my side. And well, some people might not enjoy it.
So it's like 5 a.m. I have a flight in like 4 hours, and that basically wraps up my mini Europe trip. A lot of takeaways from this trip. One, like ask around, like ask questions. I don't think people mind giving directions or taking pictures of you or something like that. If you're a tourist, I think they expect it in a lot of these different cities, because it could save you a lot of time, can save you a lot of money. I took a lot of Ubers because I avoided that confrontation, especially in Lisbon. Like I was about to not get a bike in Amsterdam because I didn't want to ask around, but I asked around, and that was definitely the best part, biking, because they have sick bike lanes. Number two, I just learned to plan a little bit better. I'm naturally a spontaneous person, but I could have saved a lot of money and saved a lot of time if I just planned it out a little bit more. Like I entered both cities with a very vague idea. I just went on like Instagram and searched up the location, and I saw some pictures, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go here. But I think planning definitely helps out a little bit. Number three, I think in a time where we haven't really been able to go out, talk to people, I've realized that people give me energy. Talking to people give me energy. I come out of a lot of conversations a lot more excited for life, because people are on different journeys, and it's really interesting to see, and it's really inspiring seeing people accomplish what they want or planning goals and all that sort of stuff. Like there's a lot of solo travelers on this trip that I met, which really inspires me to travel a little bit more. A lot of old folks who have a lot of experiences. It's really cool to hear. And lastly, when I was on the boat tour in Lisbon, I felt proud of myself when I was looking out, like a little like sense of clarity, because what I was seeing was a really beautiful view. And I realized that I produced that. And like, of course I didn't make Lisbon or whatever, but I, with my hard work and the money I saved on and all that sort of stuff, is what was able to give me this experience. I don't spend a lot of money on basically anything but food and Uber and experiences. So I sort of realized like what manifesting looks like. Like I always told myself I would travel when I was younger. I always worked hard. It naturally happened in a way where I was like subconsciously saving money for experiences like this. And I think it's just the fact that I was able to get to this point that really inspires myself. Like I was able to pay for this trip myself, no help from parents or anything like that. I was able to figure everything out. The COVID stuff, the packing, the the navigation through the city, like finding spots, all that sort of stuff. And I honestly come out of this trip very proud of myself. But yeah, this is probably the first or second video on this channel, depending when I post this. But if you guys enjoy content like this, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. I really wanted to make content like this for the longest time, and now I'm able to do that. So hopefully you guys enjoy. My name is Steven, and I'll see you in the next one.